Okay, there we go. But today we are taking going with great migrations today. And what made me uh start this topic was various reasons, and I would say first, the definition of migration or migrate, is to go, from one country, region, or place to another, right? And that made me think of, actually the Great Migration here in the States, where, you know, melanin rich people came down, well, up from the south all the way to various cities in the north, and they moved, their families from places, they have been for, all they've ever known, and came to a place they ain't never been before, you know, um, which was very interesting to me, because um, one chief has always said, um, I knew people need to move around their own, and let's see, oh, oh, what did she do? Uh-oh. Okay. Um, uh, did this girl put me? You better not have. We're gonna have an issue. Please, 1 second. Did that girl kick me out? I bet she kicked me out. This girl done kick me out of everything. See what happens when you try to multitask. Okay. Had to redo it. I'm trying to do this on Clubhouse and do this. Oh, but shalom, shalom. So bring that beat back, cause don't don't call me busy. But yeah, so let's go back over that again, cause she just messed me all up. I'm talking about you, women now. So that's what I'm getting on today, right? But not only just that, it's just the great migrations that we have, not just moving from one place to another, but also the great migrations that we have in time, and the great migrations that we have in consciousness and everything. How many times have we heard Chief say, we're not in the time of this, or we're not in the time of leaders anymore. You know what I'm talking about? And it makes you think that not just there aren't great migrations of people and everything. There's great migrations in in times and errors and in consciousness. Now we're in a time of vast information. You know, there was a great migration, to the north. Now there's a great migration to the south. What does that look like? You know what I'm saying? But again, oh yeah. See, here we go. Yeah, that's the you. It's on silent, but that wasn't even an issue. I think, but I hit the wrong button. That's all. But yeah, you know, yeah, people do forget. You was just until you busy. They didn't want to call you up and tell them what you want. Ain't that right? Anyway? So but yeah, I had few questions, but before that, there's a piece in the Anu way that says it's important that we live well above sea level, in regions where we can grow any manner of uh, food desirable. And it also says, do not fear the difficulty of building on rocky terrain. The more solid the terrain we build on, the longer our wisdom will persist throughout our generations. You know, so I made me think about that, and made me think of like I said, great migrations, right? And you know, some people are afraid to relocate or to build and go to, like it says in on the way, rocky terrain, different terrain that they ain't never been before. You know what I'm saying? How do you build on rocky terrain? Things like that. And so I have like one question, for everybody, like what makes you, want to relocate, as an Anu, Anu person. Oh, there we go. Okay. What makes you
Just wanted to let you know you're muted on.
we doing where? Where am I muted at, bro? Miss-
It says that you're muted on Clubhouse.
It
We can't hear
says.
you over here.
Can you hear me now? Does it work? Because my microphone is on Clubhouse.
Okay, now it says you're not muted on Clubhouse, but I can't hear you.
Okay, that means that technical difficulties like crazy, right? Um. Okay. How we going? Okay. Can you hear me now? Look. Dang, I'm loud. Mm. I'm just okay.
That is super strange.
It is super strange. It's working. Okay, look like we having the same problem.
No, I can't hear you. But you have two options. One is you could make me a moderator and try to leave and come back, or the other, Sister Yafe had put the other option inside of the chat on YouTube. You can just share the StreamYard link.
For sure. Doing that now. Okay. Well, that's the StreamYard link. If anybody wants to join, I'm gonna leave out and see if this works. Okay. Wasn't expecting this to go like it do.
Okay, let's try it again.
Alright, one more again.
There we go. Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, live and full effect.
Oh, man. For sure. Give thanks, bro. So back to what I was talking about. What makes one want to relocate, and what makes you want to move from one place to another. Is it to get around your own people? I mean, think about probably like where you live now. You know what I'm talking about? Do you know your neighbors? You know what I'm saying? um, is the place that you know currently dwell in, you know, a serene and sane place, you know, or do you hear dang on police sirens and just uh noises and sounds that not good for your sanity or your state of being, you know. um Brother Ramik says, answer, being around unrighteousness makes me want to relocate. But I also acknowledge the phrase, grow where you're planted. Okay, okay, that works. So I have to keep on checking. But yeah, um,
Peace.
okay.
I'll respond to the question too, if that's cool.
Yeah. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah. I don't like people in general. I don't like being around people. It's like it says in the honor way, like you only want the special ones. There's certain people that I mean, it's like, okay, I like this one. But other people, sometimes it's like a chore because sometimes being in close proximity to people who aren't moving wisely or who are moving in an emotional manner. I think I touched on this on the strong end on Yom Shishi. It's like sometimes I used to get punished just for being in the same room as some people, and they were cool with the punishment, but I wasn't because I didn't do nothing. It's different. Like if you make up your mind to get punished and you do it anyway, but if you're just getting punished for being in the room, then it's just wise to not be in the same room as people who are bringing that punishment. You know, like sometimes people say, I don't want to stand too close to this one when the lightning strikes. Yeah. You know, it's like that. Like, I don't want to be around you because you're not living smart. And if I stay around you, then I won't be living smart. So it's best for me to move away. You know, the class that you were taught on the origins of Islam, it brought up a lot of like historical examples of people moving from place to place and migrating. You know, and sometimes it was by choice, and sometimes it was just like we just can't stay here no more because it's not safe. You know, we gotta leave. You know, you might have people getting expelled from cities. That's another thing. But for me personally, it's just like I always wanted to live on my own. Like when I was younger, I had a dream that I could buy my own key. You know, which is like a small island in the Bahamas. But I always dreamed of like having my own key and not living around people. So yeah, that's like the borderline misanthrope in me.
For sure, bro. Yeah, like I don't like living close to people neither. But yeah, I totally feel you like that. But you're right. You know, human beings over the coast of history have always moved for many different reasons, like food, war, um, maybe the place they ain't popping, you know, that they live in ain't popping no more, you know. And then sometimes you see you know, this place that's probably was sprawling with people becomes dilapidated and basically turns into a ruin. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, ancient cities, you know. I would also say, you know, if you just look at some places, like for me, you know, I think of Detroit, you know, or these places that had, you know, great, you know, wheels of industry, and they don't anymore, you know. And because of that, you know, now, you know, those areas become dilapidated and a ruin. You know. um like where I used to live, there was or where I always used to go because I had family there. It was always a bunch of factories, you know, steel factories and everything. And then when that all dried up, those factories became, you know, basically ruinous. You know what I'm saying? They became ruinous, and the areas that had economics and everything dried up, and then boarded places everywhere, and it was just very interesting. I was like, man, I didn't realize that building looked new, but now it's all boarded up. I didn't never realize that, but people move, people shift, but not only does that happen, also, not only do they bring themselves, they also bring the kind of culture, the kind of culture they came from. you you know, um, like you know, and that culture reflects on comes into conflict with the residing culture in which they now live. You know what I'm saying? Um, like take it, when now that people are moving back to the south, now they taking cultural norms of the north back to the south. And then there's a conflict. A big conflict, and then there's a depression, but uh Emanaya says, being closer to a certain family or getting away from noise are the reasons I relocated. Answer: instructions of my headship to be in safer places, as well as the place where airlights are or will be. Aberrant. Well, Abarash Kush says, let's move to be near airlights. It is safer and wiser to be around those with the same culture. As a father, my children need to be in an environment more suitable to their proper growth. Um, Aki Zach says, they say the saying comes to mind: you can't outwork a bad diet, which makes me think of Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who said, your environment will always be stronger than your teachings. Um, Emily Akira Eden says the reason include um, to remove myself and youth um, of out of a densely populated metropolis, reside where a new community would be, along with direction from covering, all lead to a beautiful location. For sure, for sure, for sure. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, I mean, okay. Peace, Sister Maria. Okay. But I got work all these dang old devices and then pop back in, pop back out. Okay. And then look at the camera. Yeah, it's not easy. But so you have that, but also I wanted to know, as there are many things that cause you know um people to migrate and things like that. I also wanted to know, um what hints or outliers that tell you you know what migration point that we're in, basically what time that we're in, and era that we're in. What are the hints that come to you in that aspect? It is like juggling. I ain't never juggled before. I thought juggling was stupid. It wasn't cool. You gotta look at the dang on balls, and it's like, I'd rather throw them balls at people. Like, that's how I'm gonna juggle. I'm gonna throw the balls at you. But yeah, um, because some people don't realize what time they're in. You know, uh, they get stuck in errors or places in time, and then they don't grow. Um, but also, you know, they fail to recognize the movement point in time. And because of that, I would say that because they don't know how to move in that time, it becomes an issue. They get stuck. You know what I'm talking about? So that can also be, you know, a issue in that sense. And it can it can be a very um bad situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you cannot sense danger, how do you know to move away from it? Know, animals have migration points, you know what I'm saying, and move, you know, uh around from place to place, just for the sense of, to get away from danger, or, to go where the next watering hole is, things like that. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
Peace.
Peace.
Yeah, that made me think of. I was just watching the movie Noah, because it's the movie that's being broken down, and there was a point where there was like a spring of water, because the Earth is like, in that film, the Earth is like at a point where it's dying.
Mm-hmm.
There's very little resources there, and once the spring comes up, it's like two doves were the first ones to find it, right?
Right.
Foreshadowing.
Right.
But the two white doves were the first ones to find this watering hole, and they go. It's like they don't find a watering hole. They find like a stream that comes from it. And the first thing they did was they flew to the source of where the water was coming from. And like that's the first image that came to mind when you were speaking about people migrating and taking their culture with them. I don't know if it's a bad example, but I think it's a good example. There's a Boondocks episode like after Hurricane Katrina, and basically some cousins from Louisiana went to visit the Freeman family, and they brought all of it. You know what's going on.
I know it. Everybody know. New Orleans is grimy. Don't let them in, Granddad. I know that episode, but I know it because I was there for it. But yeah, but yeah, man, like just with that, just with a dang on a natural effect like that, I was able to see like a different culture, in that sense, I have friends that lived in New Orleans, and they came up all the way up to Chicago. You know what I'm saying? And it was a different culture. But also when I was down there for it, you know what I'm saying, I ain't never seen that much water before. But also I that taught me how to prepare, because I'm like, flood, I'll be okay. Like, no, it actually floods where we are. You on the valley. It could get real bad. And then you just in there, it's like, I didn't know it could get this bad. But and then you have to, be in these long lines and to prep, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, they brought a different type of culture, you know what I'm saying, that was like, don't bring them in. Y'all got to go. you know what I'm saying? Now, I didn't think that when the episode happened, I didn't think that about New Orleans, but I will be biased and say, I dang on sure thought that about New York. I was like, don't bring them. Everybody know. Like, that place changes people.
New Yorkers raising their hands up.
Like, what you trying to say, son? Like, hey. Prime example. There's a couple of cities we can name, they go, they relocate to, they change places. But yeah, but not only that, like I used to watch you know, but speaking on that, I used to watch, crime documentaries, and one thing that they said, when like after Katrina, and people from New Orleans moved to different places, especially like Houston and Texas, right? And when it came to crime and the murder rate popped up, they noticed that uh those that relocated thought it was going to be like in Louisiana, where at the time, if you did a murder, you know like after a month, you pretty much get off scot free. The police wouldn't pursue it anymore. You know what I'm saying? And because they were so used to that, when they went to someplace else and they tried to do crime like that, they realized, we don't do that here. We will lock you up. It was very interesting how, you're used to a certain place, or you're used to a certain type of culture or statutes, even the culture of certain laws and statutes, and how that doesn't permeate to some other places. You know what I'm saying? Because you're used to something, and then you go here, and then you don't know the laws and statutes, and and the culture of that residing place, and then you end up getting hemmed up like that. Oh yeah, every kid, yeah, I said it. Yeah, I ain't taking it back. Tell me I'm wrong. I can say the same thing about us, but but hey, it don't get near as bad as when y'all go so well. Like, I knew I stand up. Come on now. Like, hey. Well, y'all go change his places, okay? Atlanta's never going to be the same ever again. But I can say that when they brought them Cali people in too. See, when they brought changed that place too. So you're not alone. You're not alone. you know, don't worry about it. But not only that, another thing that makes me think about that is like I used to like, well, I still do, but I used to listen to Dr. Amos Wilson, and one thing that he used to talk about, how people brought cultures, and how certain cultures permeated and changes things, especially during turn of the century. You know what I'm saying? Like the when the potato family hit Ireland, and had the Irish come. Even if you've seen the movie, Gangs in New York, you know what I'm talking about. They brought a different type of culture, but it wasn't just them. It was the Italians and everything else, but they brought a certain type of culture. You know what I'm saying? That was in conflict with the residing native culture of in America. You know what I'm saying? And then that type of culture, you know, brought criminal activity, and it brought bad sanitation habits. If you live in these poor places and you don't have good sanitation, you know. It, I used to watch documentaries on cities, and I one it talked about how sanitation in New York started. You know what I'm talking about, which was very interesting. You know, um, had this one guy just rallied a bunch of people and a bunch of guys, and they wore these white, all they was dressed in all white, and they would just clean up the streets. You know what I'm saying? So it does happen, but then it also happens that native inhabitants are hostile to uh I would say foreign incursions, because that's what you can look at it as, as a foreign incursion. Uh, we touched on this in yesterday's room cipher. Yeah, what I'm saying, happening. You know, where they see these people come from someplace else that they probably are hostile to, and then they don't want them in. Like, don't let them in. Oh no, oh no. You know, what I'm talking about. Um, it's a lot to take in, but then it makes you realize that it it you don't have to sort of go where you're not wanted, but you want to go where you are wanted. You know what I'm saying? Where you are welcome. You don't want to go no place where you ain't welcome. Like that saying is, I know where I'm not wanted. We don't like your kind around here. That lets you know right there. you know, um, that these things happen. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be mindful of them and to be safe, and also to go where the good land is. You know what I'm saying? Just because you go to this bustling place, you know what I'm saying, or this bustling metropolis, doesn't mean that it's good for your well-being. You know what I'm talking about? Um, Historically, there's always been times where cities have been, you know, great metropolises, and then people leave. People leave for various reasons, and then it's just there. You know what I'm saying? you know, um, but also, you know, but that I would say Master Million, that dang on Boondocks episode. Man, I used to watch that one so many times, right? Because I was like, yeah, it's really like that. But they had Lil Wayne, doing, basically being himself, and then you got to grab him. I want you to bless him, Lord, and help him bless us, Lord. The selfishness of it all.
I'm sure. I'm telling you, I can only pray for us, but I can only really pray for me.
Yeah.
But as long as I'm included in us, then I'm gonna pray for us.
He's like, we some Ninth Ward Negroes. We used to go over there, and you just be like, yeah. If like he shot out the war. I'm from that Ninth Ward. But yeah, man.
The Wayne came into the house plotting and robbed the whole place.
And then,
I was a different type of person,
And the little girl was like, it's okay. We know we're not wanted here. And then it was always about when I get my FEMA check. And
right.
Man, let me tell you, it was really like that. Because when homies was like, yo, when I get this FEMA check, bro, they was waiting on that FEMA check. You know what I'm talking about.
It's sort of like the stimulus package that people were waiting on during the I'm not gonna say it, the bad flu.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call it that. During that whole lockdown, they were waiting for the stimulus check, and a lot of them waited for it. But as soon as it came, they just spent it.
Exactly.
So talk about being like in a space where it ain't really popping like that no more, and deciding to move. You couldn't even move at that point. Like everything was shut down. And you also made me think about when people go to certain places, like the New Orleans piece. Like people go to certain places. Sometimes it can happen like in a couple of ways. Sometimes they assimilate and they try to make themselves like the culture that they moved around. And other times they like refuse to change anything. Like we just changed location, but we still us. Like I'm in Woodcrest, but I'm still from New Orleans. So, I'm still thinking like someone from New Orleans. And both of them could be like a good and a bad thing at the same time. Like with like I'll use Caribbean people for example. Like no matter where Jamaican goes, they Jamaican.
For
Like,
sure, man.
you ain't taking no Jamaican out of nobody. If anything, you might want to be like a Jamaican. Dude, like they start changing people around them. Everybody like, yeah, man. Like, everybody coming with that, like, which is super annoying. But by the way, um, but yeah, like they hear you from the Caribbean and they automatically like, that's so cool. You know, I want to be like you.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to West Africans, they want to be like um, the Americans, not realizing that the American Africans or African Americans were like malformed and they were responding to their environment. But now Africans want to rap and hustle and all of these things, you know. So it's interesting to see how migrations change cultures and the perceptions of a people, you know. So that's something else. Another thing that came to mind was How High, right? And you got Dean King,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just like super proper in his mind. You know, he did everything he could to assimilate. He changed the way he speaks. He got a white wife, you know, but as soon as that, Chief was speaking about this last song, like as soon as the fluff came off of him and that core broke out, you know, they gave him certain cookies and certain brownies, and the real him came out. You could hear where he was from, you know, so it was still in him,
Mm-hmm.
but like he changed up a little bit once he loosened up. So that was interesting to see how people can like change their culture or alter their culture the way that they move through life, just to assimilate to wherever like people they move amongst. And you have other people who bring like maybe a superior culture and they stick to their cultures, and slowly but surely, just by their steadfastness, people get curious and they're like, okay, so why do you do it like this? Why do you do it like that? You know, they might laugh at first, like, look at them over there. Look what they eat. Look how they dress. Look how they talk. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but after a while, you change the environment just by being there. If you're, you know, being what you are and not trying to, not reacting to the environment, but just moving responsibly, you know, because you might have only gone there, like you said, because teens where you are, you know, things are tough. And what used to make money doesn't make money anymore. You know, it's sort of like Jacob and his sons. And he was like, okay, I hear that there's corn in Egypt. You know, let's go to Egypt. You know, so they migrated, you know, and they went over there to get what they needed to get. They didn't go there to be Egyptians initially, you know, and because they were persecuted throughout their time there, it was clear who they were. Like,
Mm-hmm.
at least it was clear who they weren't. You know, we ain't Egyptians because we wouldn't have been getting treated like this. You know, but those are some of the thoughts that were running to my mind. I wanted to add to the bill.
Oh yeah, bro. Even with that, and then after Jacob and Israel, settled down in Egypt, then there comes a time where Pharaoh didn't know who Jacob was, or Joseph. He didn't know them. I don't know them, but who's all them? You know what? Let's do wisely with them. Because if we don't, they gonna end up, usurping us. You know what I'm talking about? So let's do wisely with them. All of a sudden, there's a time when people don't know who you are or whatever, and then you have to, you know, they look at you as the enemy. In that retrospect, you know what I'm talking about. So I totally I totally get it, man. Um, sometimes even when you tell your children don't follow the trend, be the trend. You know what I'm saying? If you continue to be yourself, you know what I'm talking about. People will want to be you in a sense. As you just displayed or just outlined out. You know, I would also say also let's see. I also had another question. Um, my other question was, what is your present migration bringing you towards? You know what I'm saying? And that came with, you know, just marking, you know, when we ourselves look at, okay, where am I going? You know, where am I um, bringing myself um, towards? You know, culturally, physically, and things like that. You know, Sister Yafe says, this worldwide pestilence we are witnessing is a signal to move or migrate. We have to find the quiet corners. Yes, Sister Yape, I totally agree with that. You know, when you realize that, you know, it's time to move and find, you know, the quiet corners and the quiet places, you know, that is not so populated, you know, that's actually quiet and it may not be no street lights. You know what I'm saying? But it's quiet and all that's around, and the only noise you're gonna hear is crickets, you know, and nature. You know what I'm saying? That's the time that you're in, and you have to recognize it. You know what I'm saying? Um, like for some people, historically, like when the depression happened, you know, you had places that didn't even know that there was a depression. You know, like, huh? You know, they didn't know about Hoovervilles and things like that because they were, you know, protected and grew their own food and they weren't feeling the so-called, you know, they weren't feeling the shortages or the economic backlash of it all. You know, just pass them by. You know, and things like that, you know. And here we are also in a time where there are shortages, you know, and food shortages, and then you have to recognize that you're in a time where, you know, you have to go uphill, you know what I'm saying, and grow your own food, and so you won't have to feel that backlash or be in that so-called recession, resignation, depression, you know, because that changes your state of mind, changes your state of being, you know, to where you cannot perform or act a certain way, you know what I'm saying, where you are needed to, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, man, that's something to consider and think about, you know what I'm talking about. It goes very it goes beyond, you know, but sometimes it's just not just you, it's also you got to bring your family members too, you know, or those within your homestead, you know. Sister Yapa says Proverbs 133, but whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely and shall be quiet from fear of evil, for sure. But yeah, um okay, so let's see. Look, juggling again. Gotta juggle. Okay. Making sure I look at all the comments. uh, so you got anything you want to add, Master Menelec? Let's see. Um, uh, Albaraz Kush says, um, "Y'all is leading me towards taking on more responsibility, creating and obtaining the resources needed for forward progression without having sacrifice more integrity." Yeah, and that's a good thing, bro. I would say that, you know, because some don't even have that directedness, you know, to recognize who's leading them and where it's leading them to. You know what I'm talking about? Um, but yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. You know what I'm saying? Um, so it's good to know that. Oh, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, my bad. I was talking into. I would say, yeah, I definitely agree with Sister Yafe. You know, those quiet places. It's like there was someone who said it. I can't remember who, but I read somewhere. It was a quote that humans are the only animals that really like noise. Like we go towards noise. Like you ever seen a horror movie or in a film where people are lost in the woods or in the wilderness,
Mm.
like they rejoice when they hear noise. You know, people, they just start running towards them. You don't know if it's like a group of cannibals. You don't know if you're running towards the KKK. You just hear people and you rejoice because you figure they got all of the creature comforts that you've been conditioned to, just to take for granted.
Mm.
And you can't wait till you can get into that point where you don't have to think about your survival no more. You can just move from one place to the next. So sometimes it's migration, but other times it could be hurting. And you don't realize which is which if you're not moving, like if you're not conscious about where you want to go. So that's what that thought brought to mind when you were reading Sister Yafe's comment. Like, just you could be easily manipulated into moving to a certain area. So like that's a good question. What is your present migration bringing you towards? And it could just be the plan is to live sovereignly in a quiet space. And now you got to look at the map, and it's like, okay, that's cool, but they got a bunch of cannibals in this area. That's cool, but it got a war like right next door, so I got to be careful. That's cool. It's not high enough above sea level. Like, you have your criteria, and you got to just check off the list. But you know that like going back to a segment that she did on strategy and tactics, you know what the strategy is. Strategy is living sovereignly in a space that is surrounded by the people of your community, but in a space that is safe and above sea level, where you can grow your food. Like, that's some of the base criteria that was outlined in our new way. And there's more that Chief had shared with us, on the bug out locations and what you should carry just to make sure that you're good for the journey.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, just moving to a space where you're not around the crazy, because it spreads like wildfire.
Yeah.
And people are scary in large numbers. Because it's like the more people you add to the mix, the less thoughts. And it's similar to what Chief was saying on the segment that I referenced a while ago with the power of silence. The more you add to something, the less each individual thing can express itself. So we use that an example of food. Like, the more seasoning you add, the less you can taste. Or the more instruments you add to a song, like the less you can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So like, the more people you add to the space, especially if they're not on the same wavelength, like, chaos is bound to happen. That's the recipe for chaos. And we've seen it time and time again. And that's like a cue right there. It's time to get out of Dodge. Because when resources start to dry up, it's like the Joker said in Batman, like, people eat each other.
Yeah, bro. You experience the zombie apocalypse. Once that happens, you know what I'm talking about. And you see some things you don't want to see. You know what I'm saying? And then you're in a state of emergency and desperation. You know what I'm saying? And not a state of maybe preparedness and defense. You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, that is definitely something to take in, you know what I'm saying, and to pay attention to, because one thing that made me think of it was, also with the Great Migration, then you have people, they come from, a different place, and but then you go out west or you go up north, and then you have these relatives that offer you homes that you know ain't ain't worth what you're paying for, but they're charging you more than than you're supposed to. You know what I'm talking about? And then you don't know who's living in those places, and what's going on there. You know what I'm saying? But you move into these places, and all of a sudden you having all these dysfunctional problems. You know what I'm saying? You move into this home and you have these dysfunctional problems because you don't know the last tenants or inhabitants that lived there and what they brought. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. um and things like that. But also, um, you probably don't uh, understand also, probably where you live, in a sense. Like, I remember when she was talking about how how people were buying up, those brownstones, and was like, man, those are castles. You know what I'm saying. But at one point, they probably weren't castles. At one point in time, they probably dilapidated and things like that. But somebody probably saw the value in them, and then they was like, let me get those. You know what I'm talking about? Like Monopoly. Everybody want to go to Park Place or Boardwalk. You know what I'm talking about? But don't nobody want to move to Marvin Gardens. There were houses on Marvin Gardens, or what? What's another one? Connecticut. Uh, we'll take the railroad. You know what I'm saying? We'll take the railroad. We'll take electricity. We'll take Boardwalk, Park Place. Um, what's another one? Um, North Carolina. Um, but like Connecticut, all the light blue was it's like worth like $6. You're like, no,
I used to buy everything.
for sure.
I was name of the game is Monopoly. If I land on it, I'm buying it.
Exactly.
Like, you don't want to. Anytime you pass go, you gotta pay me, because I'm buying that first strip that nobody wants to buy.
Yeah, and I'm putting a hotel on it, so you gon' pay me.
Just the ghetto hotel's cheap around here.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna pull Motel 6 here and double my and double my property right there. You know what I'm talking about. But there's some people that don't play to monopolize things. You know what I'm saying? But there are other people that do. You know what I'm talking. You know what I'm talking about. So, I mean, there are various ways to look at migrations, or your present migration. Like, do you look at where you are now, and does it make you say, okay, I got to get out of here? You know what I'm saying? I recognize the craziness and the non-communal aspect of the environment that I live in. So I need to move to a more richer environment where there is communal sanity and strength and fellowship and relationships. Brother Mark Ramik says, migration is bringing me closer to higher consciousness, like-minded individuals, community likes, and honorable counsel. Okay, bro. Okay, for sure, for sure. You know what I'm talking about? That's what's up. That's what's up. You know. But yeah, smart buys for sure. Sister Yafe, But we go try to get Boardwalk Park Place first. You know what I'm talking about? That's what prime real estate is. Come on, 7. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, sometimes it is like that. Sometimes you gotta have the vision that you may purchase junk land, you know what I'm saying? And then you'll have to build and have vision for that land to make it something that people said it was junk, you know. And to me, it's like, what land is junk, if you can make something out of nothing, then people want to move where you move, or they want to take over what you have because you done built it up, you know what I'm saying? And you done made it something that they didn't even see what they had, that can be it as well, you know what I'm talking about? So yeah, man, I would also say that. Okay, said the same thing. Um, Sister Yave says, "Got to go around the board once before you can buy anything." Knowledge, then the wisdom. Those hotels come after the whole. understanding. Yeah, they come after after you build 4 houses. You got to you got to build a house first. It all starts with one. you know, and then you got to add on to it. You got to add on to it, and you can't take away. As we say. You know, um, but yeah, sometimes we don't even see that it just starts by building one house, and then now house becomes many houses. Even when see, even when it comes to you know being a tribe or a nation, what I'm saying, like we brought up Jacob, but then what, there was 12 tribes, where there was one, then it became 12, what I'm saying, and things like that. um it can be that, what I'm saying, that migration, also a bloodline, what I'm saying, where you had this, but now you have, this one family, but now you have like 5 different branches, what I'm saying, all doing uh something different, or adding to the bloodline in different ways, but moving as one unified unit, what I'm talking about. um and keeping the standards of that bloodline, what I'm talking about. you know there's that we don't even consider, what I'm saying, the migration of bloodline and family, you know so what you think about that, what I'm talking about.
I was thinking, when you're moving in that way, like you're moving to say, you're migrating somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
you made me think of like a lot of the examples that I had given earlier was like moving away from something instead of moving towards something. And the purpose for migrating sometimes is something that you got to take into account too. Because if you're moving because, okay, let's say like there's a plane crash and you survive, you and a couple of survivors, the first thing you're told to find is shelter. Find shelter, then you find water, then you find food. I think that's the order. And then once you found shelter, let's say you find it, you build something, and you're cool. Now you can like look at your surroundings. You might have found some shelter, but then you turn around and it's like, oh, yeah, there's a couple of jaguars that live around here, so you might have to move, you know. But you might also explore the island and it's like, oh, okay, there's actually a stream. Let's follow the stream to the source, and it'll probably lead us to like find some higher ground. And it's like, okay, let's move towards a better location now that we have a better understanding of like where we're at, as opposed to before where it's like some people might have been injured, you might have been disorientated, you just needed to rest and collect yourself, you might have been in shock. You know, sometimes you move because, you got life punched you in the face. You got to figure something out real quick. And sometimes you move because you look around and it's like, this isn't working. And then but you might have time to say, well, what does work? you know, um, but yeah, that's what I was thinking, because now you're looking for something that works and you can actually consider, you can consider what makes sense. You can consider the longevity of what it is you're trying to build, as opposed to just doing something for your immediate needs right now. So, like you were saying, you know, building up a culture or a family, like those 12 tribes of Israel, you have clans. You have these tribes, and you have generations to consider now. So being led to that land, that promised land, it wasn't just like for the people who were alive, because a lot of them had to die off in the desert during the journey. It was for the continuation of that bloodline to make sure that these people have this purpose, and this is the place where they're going to serve up this purpose, and this place can sustain them. So that was another thing that made me consider too, not just migrating for your immediate life or even the lives of your children, but just your whole bloodline. Like, are you going to have to migrate again in 2 or 3 generations?
Okay, for sure, bro. Um, Sister Irish, you had something to say? Oh man, eat
I can barely hear you on my end. I don't know if it's just
exactly.
my end because
Barely
your
hear you.
volume is really low.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah, I can't. Okay. Uh, okay. Yeah, I can barely. But Sister Beret, you had something to say?
Peace, everyone. Greetings. Thank you for the build. It's interesting. We're talking about migrations, and I'm going to answer that question. And I think about when I lived in New York, I could feel, I could literally feel the metropolis closing in on me. And I guess you could equate that to being in a space beyond your time, right? When it's time for you to shape up and ship out, they say. Um, so, moving has been a great thing, really great thing, because there is a sense of peace and safety. I think it may have been Sister Yafe that mentioned that earlier. There's a peace and safety moving to where I am now. There is less. There isn't. I don't feel that I'm bombarded with everyone's rules and the pace, right? And I'm not talking about pacing in terms of making sure we get things done, but there is a pace when we're in the metropolis that kind of pulls us or pushes us, so we don't get to really dictate or control how we're living. And sometimes I think that affects the culture that we intend to live and how we should function. Um, yeah, I think that affects it. But the question you asked, like what are you moving toward in terms of like migration? It's that movement in terms of migration is really toward like sharing communal space and like real community where there's physically you could build bonds and be able to eventually expand into community. And I think that's a great point, Master Minelik mentioned that you're thinking about that movement, but it's not just for yourself. It's really about our ambassadors, right? Or the youth or the understanding within our community, because you're pretty much laying a foundation, right? You're starting from the ground up in a sense. Maybe not so much with the culture, the idea, the edicts, but the physical communing space. You're starting from scratch. And the beauty of that is that you could infuse your culture and you could infuse everything that dictates how we function into those communal spaces so that they're not, they aren't tainted. So I think sometimes when we have to move, we think about the burden of the move more than the value that we get from this having to sacrifice and make that move and make that journey.
Okay. Okay.
That's it.
Oh yeah, I know. You done. You done.
You know me by now.
Yeah, this is true. But yeah, if you okay, Sister Iris, you ready to speak?
I hope you can hear me better now. I tried so many things.
Okay. Yeah. I hear you. I hear you kind of better now.
Ah, that's good. Great. Thank you for having me, first of all. Peace to everyone. And living in Germany. I'm German. I was born here. I worked in the same job for 27 years. And, um, but something is telling me from the inside, I've got to go here. And I cannot describe it, but somehow I really, um, yeah, I'm looking where I'm going. I'm looking what can I do with my job. Because 27 years in the same job, and this I think it's scary also. And of course that my boss told me a few months ago, Iris, you will not like step up the ladder here in this job. So I was thinking, okay, if I'm stuck in my job and I don't feel good where I live, because all my friends, they come from the Dominican Republic, they come from Curacao. I have friends in Cameroon where I'm going to go back to visit in October, and my friends are all over the world. So for me, it's also really hard to pick where I want to go because I have good connections everywhere. And then it's another point, the bloodline, what we talked about earlier. I mean, like I said, I'm German, I'm born here, but still I don't feel like I belong here. So this is really strange for me. And I was thinking, okay, maybe it's got something to do, maybe it's got something to do with that I had an accident when I was 17 years old. I got shot in my head and I got over half, I lost over half of my blood and I got so many different blood types into my bloodline. And yeah, it's just so many thoughts I've got right now. But like I said, it's really interesting that you just mentioned it now in this moment where I was even this afternoon thinking, okay, next week I'm going to my boss and say, okay, I'm going, give me my money, and I go. So I know I talked a lot, and I hope you can maybe help me with something, because in some ways I'm lost. Thank you.
Okay, okay, give thanks. I would say first, one thing is you have to have courage to leave. You know what I'm saying, or to relocate. That was one thing as you were talking about that was resonating with me is that you have to have courage. You know what I'm saying? Yes, um, you may be you may be German, but at the same time, that may not be you know uh your the culture that resonates with you. You want to get around like-minded people and like-minded people that you build community with. You know what I'm saying? Just because you live on a landmass that is called Germany. Doesn't it doesn't mean doesn't mean you have to stay there, and two, um, it doesn't mean that culture is something that you basically chose. Like she would say, if you do not choose a culture, one may be appointed for you. And in this retrospect, it's like one has been appointed for you, but it doesn't. It's not one that you're actually choosing to be. Where you see, your friends come from all these different places, and that's where it's pulling you towards leaving that culture in which you were born into. You know what I'm saying? So one, I would say that you have to have courage to do that first. You know what I'm saying? And to get around uh the culture in which you choose for yourself to live. You know what I'm saying? And the community that you choose for yourself to live in. You know. Um Also with uh when you were talking, in my mind, I was like, head for the hills, because Germany has beautiful forestry, um, country, in the country parts. From what I've seen, you know, um, so that's one thing you might want to consider. But yeah, if you choose relocate from a different country, or just away from the city, you know what I'm saying, or away from metropolis, you know what I'm saying. One thing Chief also says, when the dominant society tells you to do one thing, you do you do the opposite. So I'll also tell you, do the opposite. When they tell you to do one thing, do the opposite. you know, and get around like-minded people. But anybody else got something to build on to her question?
As you were speaking to Cyrus, I was thinking about there was a segment that Chief did a while back. Well, there's two segments that came to mind. One was the bill that we had last strong when Sister Yafe was facilitating, and it was talking about the levity of the heart, and Chief Yuya was like, well, what do you think makes your heart heavy? And then, there was like a pause, and then he asked the question, how many things do you own? And it gave me pause. It gave everyone pause because it's like, well, how many things do I own, or how many things do I am I attached to? So even it's not just possessions. Like your body is a thing that you own. Like your job might be something that you're attached to. It might be your neighborhood, or certain people that you're used to seeing every day. The other segment that came to mind was I think it's I'm loving my new skin. I think that's it. But he was using the analogy, like he was working a lot in the sun, and some of his skin was peeling. But it's like the idea of a serpent shedding its skin, in order to grow. Or you can even think of an insect molting in order to grow. You're really removing some of the things that you may not need, and maybe your supervisor or the person at your job told you that. That might have been a wake up call for you to pause and be like, okay, do I really want to continue going where I'm going, or do I want to make a turn? And it sounds like you do, but you may have so many options, you're not sure which one to choose. That's what it's sounding like in terms of your state of mind.
Yeah, you're so right. And I mean, of course, through the section from India and listening to all of you, I get stronger every day. My eyes get a little tighter. I'm still a fool, but they open a little bit every single time I listen to you and reflect.
Oh, I don't even know y'all can,
Not that I'm
y'all
just
can
a
listen
fool, reflect.
on Clubhouse because it's
And
so
to
low.
make it also take a bit longer for me.
But
I mean, you see,
just in
27
case,
years, you can
okay.
always come in
So
and say, you're not
I'll give you the blow by blow. So Sister
and
Iris
I
is,
think,
from Germany,
with,
Deutschland, and she's basically
so
asking,
I'm
what should she do? She wants to move,
I'm
but she
still
thinks of her
scared
job and
because
things
I
like that. And
know
she
there
has
are
so many places that she
wide
wants to
areas
see and
I
things like
don't
that.
even know
So that's
exactly.
that's
I
that's
have
what we're talking about on
meditated
Clubhouse.
on
If you're not on Clubhouse, see,
meditation
I got a trouble. It just goes
until
everywhere.
sometimes
Here I am. We gotta look,
morning
listen, and
with no
so
neighbor
yeah.
right I'm living on the
So
fourth
that's the
floor
blow by blow. you know what I'm talking about.
and I
So
can
just so you
look
know.
I think 15 kilometers far in the it's not cloudy or it was nice weather and so it must be something deep from inside telling me to be alone in my home. Maybe it also protected me from what's coming in Germany because I never saw also so much crime over here than in the last year or two, and I think it's getting worse through the situation. And but I don't know, something inside is telling me, and I've got to say that all of you helped me to clear my mind because of course I've got to know where I'm going. Of course I know I've got to plan, which way or what steps I'm going to take. But through listening to you and not giving up, because there also was a moment where I thought, should I give up listening to you? Because I always thought wrong. I thought when you
Okay,
talk
so
what
you
you
know,
talk about so valid and it was right.
she's just
And I was
explaining that
super nice to me.
she's
But
basically
because
giving thanks of
I didn't listen to my
for all
inner
the
voice, I
help,
kept on
but she
listening
also is
more
like she feels like she has to
and
follow her
I
gut,
learned so
because something's
much and
telling
I
her
want
to
to thank
leave and
all my
move and
accounts
relocate.
still
You know,
alive because it's really
so as she
I really
goes
want to thank
on,
you
in
all
her life,
and
she still feels like something's telling her to
you all
move.
make me stronger and this is for me the best present I ever got really and like what I want to say is I don't have I have of course connections here why I'm scared leaving but this is more the security reason but my parents passed away my sister lives far away and my friends live all in different countries so um, I think I shouldn't be scared so I'm working on it to get a little stronger and then I think off I go thank you so much.
Give thanks. It's our honor. It's an honor to be able to help someone. I do have one more question though. In terms of this inkling or this thought that maybe you should leave, did you just get that thought after the conversation with your boss about not moving up the ladder, or were you thinking about it, but it was like a quiet voice, and over time it just
So
started
as you
getting
see,
louder and louder?
Master Melnick
So it's
is
sort of
asking
like
a
when you
question.
came in and your voice, like the sound was really low, but then you left and came back, and it's a little louder. It's not as loud as everyone else's, but at least now we can make you out. Was it sort of like that? Like you always knew, but now it's getting like louder and louder?
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, I was talking to my boss a few months ago, but I realized it now after reflecting what we talked about last week and the week before. Then I also take old segments again from old to I start
So
the voice
look, now I gotta be narrated, right?
and I
So
get used to
after
voice
Master Melnick asked the question, she said, yeah,
because
yeah.
I thought maybe I should
Before
find
her
a
boss
partner
told
here
her,
and
that she
see
won't
what
move far, well,
those
basically get
times
promoted up the ladder,
I think
at her job.
yeah let's
That
and
basically that feeling of telling her to
and I
move was
thought
there
just like that
before all of that
was
happened.
not but now even
See,
though
now I gotta be the
I don't
mediator.
like my I
Wood, the wood,
and like I think maybe he also said it uh, to give me the kick in my boot and to say okay don't fear don't be scared because it doesn't matter where you are you will breathe and if you are intelligent enough and if you have a clear head you will you will you can do something anywhere where you I mean I can see it I've got this really small apartment and I started with nothing and all of a sudden now this is my little paradise and so I know that out of nothing like you said earlier out of nothing you can make and so yeah definitely sorry for the long answer but the voice was really
she's
reminding me
apologizing for the long answer, which is okay. Oh, like we say, it's our honor and give thanks. But yeah, I would say, like you said, you make something out of nothing, and like I say, it takes courage, and and as you was talking, what was coming to my mind was follow your gut. What I'm saying, something telling you to leave. Follow your gut. Like I said, if the dominant society tells you to um go one way, you go in the other direction. So for sure follow your gut. But it's our honor to be of service and be of help. You know what I'm talking about? So give thanks for that. You have something that's nothing that.
Um, no, I just echo what you were saying. You like you said, you heard the voice for a while, and I get it too because I've been hearing this voice from I was 16. Like as soon as you graduate high school, leave. It was clear as day. As soon as you graduate, just leave. Now here it is. I'm trying to leave, but it's like more hoops to jump through in terms of leaving. Because before, like this was before like all of the restrictions that were put in place around September 11th. You know what I mean? So this was around that time, and I was thinking this, and then that happened, you know, and it's like harder for people to travel, but I never traveled between countries, so I didn't really think about it. But then here it is now, the bat flu, which I'm just going to call it that. Now that that's happened, there's even more restrictions, and now you have to pay more attention to regulations and what you would have to do to even relocate. So I'm not saying that to say that there's an excuse now. I'm saying like there may be something else that happens that makes it almost impossible to move. So if you know that you should move and you can move, then maybe it's time to put that plan of action together. You know, because if you take any longer, there may not be it may not be as easy. You know, sometimes we only move with a sense of urgency, and that's what kind of gets us. Because when the urgency comes, it's like the door is closing, so I need to hurry up. As opposed to I had time and I knew I had to do it, but I felt like I had time, so I didn't do it. You know, so that's another part about migrations too. Like, if you know it's time to go, then you should just move instead of waiting for something to chase after you and try to eat you.
Yeah, I would agree with Master Mignolet, you know, and like I say, have courage. You know, you gotta have courage and be directed, you know. But yeah, you know, moving on from that, um any other comments, you know, I ain't gonna keep you long, but any other comments that anybody want to say? No one speaks.
No one speaks.
See, man, that TV series was just, you just can't help but quote some lines from it. I mean, because it was just that dang on deep. You know what I'm saying? And look, and look, now that we are talking about the Shaggs, look, that was migration. You see, it's a circle. It all goes back to something. But yeah, you know, I would say that, but you know, we, you know, as Master Nunio was saying, you know, how you have to jump through hoops just to relocate. And in my mind, I'm like, man, when you don't want to jump through hoops, break the day. You like break them and just go through them. You know what I'm saying? Kick in the door, wave it. Look, New York mindset. Kick in the door, wave it. The phone. That's sometimes where you gotta go with it. You gotta kick in the door and wave the phone. 44. But yeah, you probably gonna have to kick in the door for some, but and have that courage to kick in that door, because sometimes waiting to jump through hoops isn't going to save you. You know what I'm saying? And it's not going to help you. You know what I'm saying? If there's a sense of emergency, you know, you will have to kick in that door. You know, and probably invade. You know what I'm saying? But that's also having the military mindset, or the survival mindset to do so. You know what I'm saying? You know, so sometimes when you kindly knock on the door, you may have to kick it in. You know, you may be in a time where you don't have time to knock and wait for a response. You're just gonna have to kick kick that door in. You know, but yeah. But since no one else has any comments, and I mean, we done went to boondocks and everything, so you know, I give thanks for the build and everybody that commented and showed up and showed out from YouTube to Facebook to Clubhouse. See, we got to juggle. So give thanks and give thanks to Master Lil Left for help for helping me juggle all of this because I sure enough did not know I was on mute. You know what I'm talking about? But I give thanks for that. You know what I'm saying? And I will. Everyone has a enjoy the rest of the day. You know what I'm talking about? But look forward to okay movie breakdown. you know that we got coming, which would be no. I thought it was Maleficent too, but I guess it's Noah. But yeah, I can't wait for that one as well. You know what I'm talking about? This has been very interesting and fun. So I give thanks to the Anu Womb has just really been breaking it down. Look, see, Sister Yape like, no, yay! See, she ready. She ready. Okay. But yeah, so I know everybody can't wait for that. I can't wait for that. So that's gonna be fun. So but give thanks everybody and we will be back. For another midday affirmations next strong. So but give thanks everybody and peace.
Yeah, give thanks to you as well, Aki. Give thanks. Great talking.
Oh man, it's my honor. You know what I'm talking about? That's what we here for. So I'm like, man, what you thinking me for? It's just what we do, son. Look, I'm waiting for you.
All right.
See, I'm waiting for Sister Emma Yakira like, yes, let's do this, Brooklyn. But yeah, but give thanks and peace, everyone.
Peace.
All right, so now that we left Clubhouse, peace, everybody, and we'll see y'all next strong. And Toda, Bebakasha, everybody. Bebakasha. So peace, y'all.